You don't want to zone out during this conversation because we're talking about zoning and code in Rowlett. Let's take a peek into the past before we dive into this conversation.
They flocked to the only polling place in Rowlett today, residents concerned with the skyrocketing growth of their small town. 6 years ago, 3,000 people lived here. Now, 14,000 call Rowlett home.
It needs to grow all right, but it don't need to grow so fast as it's going because they can't put the facilities here for the people.
Rowlett is caught between eras, with big city traffic on Highway 66 and new shopping centers ready for tenants. But the past hangs on. The character of this small town refuses to fade. Many Rowlett residents say they live here or moved out here to get away from the big city. But they say the big city is inching closer and closer toward them. And pretty soon they won't be a small town anymore and will just have to accept it.
Are you experiencing deja vu? Because we've been here before, Rowlett. So how are we going to balance the hometown feel and the growth that every city in the DFW Metroplex is experiencing? Well, on this episode of the My Rowlett podcast, I have here with me today Jade Broadnax and Alex Koenig, and we're going to discuss exactly how we're going to try to keep that balance, and they're also here to promote the Recode Rowlett survey. So before we dive into the conversation, I would love if y'all could introduce yourselves. Jade, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. My name's Jade Broadnax. I'm a senior planner for the City of Rowlett in community development.
So where were you before Rowlett? Like, what is some of your background?
Well, I am a planner by trade. That's my entire professional career. So prior to Rowlett, which I've been here a year now, just a little bit over a year, I was in consulting, working for a private engineering firm.
Alex, what about you?
So I've been with the city for about 2.5 years. 2 of those years as the planning urban design manager, so oversee the current planning development for the city. That team is one of my teams, and the other team would be the long-range team for the neighborhood planning and overseeing our comprehensive plan.
Well, I'm so excited to have you both here on the show. And so I want to kick it off. What is zoning exactly? Like, why should people even care about this topic?
Who's first?
Who's first? Yes, big topic, big question.
We will keep it simple. So zoning basically separates the city into zones or districts, which talk about and govern, regulate the types of uses that might occur in such a zone, and then also how those uses are put into buildings and structures and in the way of height restrictions and setbacks from streets and other properties.
Gotcha, and how they might look
Exactly.
Gotcha.
It's the rule book for how development happens.
My next question is, why should someone care about zoning? You know, I'm thinking, especially about myself being just an average citizen, I am not building something new. I'm not starting a business. You know, I've lived here forever. Why should I care about zoning?
I understand fully that zoning is something that is often, it makes people's eyes gloss over. Mm-hmm. It can be pretty administrative a lot of the time. It's very in the weeds, but and you're right. You see a lot of people who are more well-versed in development, who are actually building things, engineers, architects, home builders, that type of thing, who are working very closely with the development code and the zoning code on a regular basis. But the average citizen does touch zoning every day, whether or not that's realized. So a lot of the things that neighbors, visitors, business owners even maybe recognize that they like about a place, things that make a sense of place, as planners like to call it, are a lot of the times dictated by zoning standards. So if you go into a thriving downtown, whether that's Rowlett, as we're trying to build that, or neighboring cities in the Metroplex, there's certain standards that get codified that can create a feel that's comfortable, particularly for the community at what we call a pedestrian scale. So making sure that buildings have a inviting storefront, like a first floor that is built to their height, wider sidewalks, pleasing to the eye building materials, open spaces, and kind of front facades that invite people to really meet one another, have a space to gather and to exchange ideas, goods, and services. Those are things that all get set with a standard, whether that's linear feet, that a building is set back from the road, or connected trails and things like that that we can require of development to come in. And so for the average person, I would say if there's a place that you like, try and pay attention to those elements that make it feel safe, comfortable, and attractive to you. And really just put your 2 cents in as to why you like those things. Or if you have the opposite kind of sentiment, there's places that feel unsafe. You don't think they're attractive. Well, zoning can kind of answer a lot of those concerns by creating standards that solve those problems. So yeah, you have the ability to kind of leave a legacy for how things change over time to make them safe, comfortable, and attractive.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's so helpful. I'm like, oh, okay, I now care about zoning.
Perfect.
Yeah,
you can leave.
Perfect. Job done.
And we're out.
It's that, and it's also cities don't happen by accident. And
Right.
So if you want to get the city and the community that you want, you have to give guidance, but in this case, it's actual regulations that say you can only do this, or you must do this at a minimum on that, and you may not do these things as well. So that's what zoning also does, why people should care about that, because again, if you care about Rowlett and what it is currently and what you're hoping it to become, you need to set those parameters forward in the zoning code so that it happens, because it just developers are not evil. They're not bad people, but developers have a development program.
Right.
That they want to do, that they feel has worked in other communities, other places, but they need to know what Rowlett wants to have so that it can be specific to Rowlett. And that's why we have a different zoning code than what Rockwall does. We have a different code than Garland or Wiley. Of course, they have similar elements. We are bound by state law, what we can and cannot do to some extent. And so in order to create that character that is uniquely Rowlett, that is why we have the existing zoning codes, as well as why we're embarking upon this new code, so that we can continue with where we've been, but then also make those adjustments to address the current and future emerging trends.
Well, that was a perfect segue. Heck yeah.
Great answer.
High five. I love that. But that is a perfect segue. So you are here to talk about why we are recoding Rowlett. So why is that? Can you just explain to our listeners why we've embarked on this seemingly several year journey?
We have a somewhat unique situation here in Rowlett. We have 2 different zoning codes, and won't go too much into the details, but one of it is a more standard code that really is about separating uses and being very use driven to separate out that you don't have the factory next door to your home, kind of the oversimplified, but really the big concern if that zoning has historically is to make sure that single family neighborhoods are quiet places of enjoyment for the most part, separated off from the industrial uses and commercial uses that can sometimes intrude upon your ability to hang out and enjoy a quiet life away from from your work and from that. So that's most of the city, and most of is still governed under what's called the Rowlett Development Code. And that was put into place, this iteration of the code, in 2006.
Okay. So it's been a while since we've updated.
That's
been a while. We've grown a lot so
The city has grown a lot.
Y2K is trending again. So, I mean, is it relevant?
Is it relevant? Yes.
So, and the world has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And Rowlett has changed a lot since 2006. And so, first of all, it's up to an update for that. The second zoning code that we have is called our form-based code. And it is more concerned about the look, the feel, the form and character of an area. And so much of the areas that have developed recently and are redeveloping, such as the downtown, and then also the districts around the Bush Turnpike, as well as over by the hospital, are areas that are regulated under that form-based code that really take more of a cue from creating a specific environment and being less concerned about what uses go on there, because that architectural standard or mantra out there of form follows function is kind of what they go with in this form-based code. If you set up the physical environment for certain conditions, certain uses don't make sense there and physically cannot happen.
Right.
On there. So that code was adopted back in 2012. So it's a younger code as well. But even it has some things that need some adjusting. And the other part to that is the two codes don't work well together. As well. And so the Recode Rowlett project is intended to integrate those two codes into a singular code. And integrate may not be the best way to do, but the result will be one single code.
Gotcha. And then do you see in our kind of preliminary conversations, do you see more cities going more towards form-based code versus the code we've previously had? Like, is that a trend?
It totally depends.
Okay.
A lot of what we're doing right now with Recode Rowlett is public input. So some of the principles from what we currently have in the form-based code are things that are more tied to kind of architectural standards, urban design principles. So I don't want the term form-based to seem like it's a scary thing for Rowlett. It's in very specific areas right now. And so in moving towards consolidating the two codes together, it's really taking elements of maybe some of those principles and listening to really what the people want and what's going to be relevant and sustainable for Rowlett in particular, and finding a happy medium. So.
Okay, and so that's why y'all built the RecodeRowlett.com website, and you're asking people to take the survey.
Exactly.
Okay, so everyone people who just live here can take this survey. So can you walk us through like some of the questions that will be potentially asked, like what, or I guess they're being asked right now. It's live right now.
Yeah, so I can actually pull it up. On RecodeRowlett.com, there's a link right on the homepage straight to the survey, and all questions are optional, but a lot of it is catered toward those who may not have any experience with developing anything in Rowlett. It really asks you a lot of questions about just kind of the character of Rowlett. Do you think developments look nice? Do you think they provide enough parking? Are buildings well designed? Do you agree? The extent to which you'd agree? You know, if you want to go in depth with more of those specific answers, there's no limit to the text box. So fire
Good
away.
to know. Fire away.
Yeah.
So when does the survey close? So there's only a couple weeks left to submit your answers.
Yeah, it's up through November 4th.
Okay, perfect.
Which is a Friday. So try and get those answers in before then and share it. I'd recommend that everybody share it within all of their networks, even if it seems like a bit of an annoying plug, like maybe you're at, I don't know, happy hour or something, and somebody's talking about their neighbor and how they're not.
I'll get the next round of questions.
When you're sitting at Bankhead.
You're like, hey, I noticed you're waiting for your table. Do you want to talk about development trends maybe?
The survey closes November 4th. What will happen after that?
So this will be helping to inform our consulting team, Clary and Associates, that we are working with to come up with the meat of their diagnostic of our existing codes, as well as where the community is when it comes to development and such, to give recommendations toward what types of things we should be focusing on in developing the new Rowlett Development Code. So that is a report that we're anticipating getting back in the next couple months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
For that, that will be again a publicly reviewed document, again, because this, even though staff will be working with administrating this, it's the city's code.
Right. So what does publicly reviewed mean exactly? Is it the advisory?
Yep.
It's going on the webpage.
It's going on the webpage.
It's going beyond the advisory group.
Correct.
Okay. So everyone can look at
Everyone
it.
will have to be able to look at it and provide feedback and commentary on that.
Overall, all the project phases are broken down on the website on RecodeRowlett.com.
perfect.
So if anybody wants to see the big chunks of time, those will be on there too.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it
Yep.
looks like we're looking at the website right now. So we have fall 2022 is the code assessment. So that's where we are now.
Yep.
And then winter 2022 to 2023. Wow. So like a full year in this phase. Okay. Well, is there anything else that y'all think it is important around the zoning topic just to empower our citizens to feel like, oh, I actually know something now about our zoning code or what we're moving forward into? Is there something that we haven't touched on?
I think the other thing about zoning that we want people to understand is it is put in place to accomplish a purpose, and I think we need to be very clear about what that purpose is. We have 0 people on my team that are looking to be heavy-handed rule enforcers and to have gotcha moments.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay your fine. Yes.
Pay your fine. Or, well, we thought we were, you thought you were going to get approved on this, but let's pull the rug out on you. Yeah, we don't want so we again are doing the work of the citizens of the city, and so we have to be sure that we are doing what we can to make the process as easy and transparent as we can for everybody.
High five. I love the little high five teams we got here. So Recode Rowlett's going to address all of those things. The process is everything. And so we hopefully will see something easier, more transparent, more equitable. Well, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners?
Please
Besides
take the survey.
Yes.
Please take the survey. Please take the survey and stay up to date by looking at the website. That's where everything's going to be posted. It is the hub. So just go to recoderowlett.com.
Thank you guys so much. Like, I was really kind of nervous going into this conversation. I was like, oh, zoning, it's such a big topic. But hopefully y'all learned something. Hopefully we made it more, equitable, more easier to understand. So thank you guys so much for being on the show. And thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media pages and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And we always will have links in the show notes below. So make sure to check those out too. Have a great day, Rowlett.